California's Great America is the best park in the San Francisco area. Located in Santa Clara, California, this park has a rich history, a great atmosphere, and a deep ride lineup. Yet, this park seems to be on borrowed time. Last year, Cedar Fair sold the land under the park and announced the park would close permanently within 11 years. This sent shockwaves through the amusement industry. While some are trying to save the park, my advice is to get there as soon as possible because it may not have much time left and it really is a fantastic park. I'll explain why in this review. The fact this park is good is quite the feat considering how complex this park's history is. The park has seemingly had a different owner every decade. This park originally opened back in March of 1976 as Marriott's Great America. It was on land that previously was a pear orchard. 2 months later, a second Marriott's Great America opened in Gurnee, Illinois. These two properties would be sister parks. They had nearly identical setups and would receive similar additions over the years. Just a decade later, Marriott wanted to leave the amusement industry. Their Illinois property was sold to Six Flags in 1984, and it has been known as Six Flags Great America ever since. It has gone on to become one of the premier parks in that chain. In 1985, the city acquired the Santa Clara property for $93.5 million, and its name was shortened to just Great America. They then hired King's Entertainment Company, who ran parks like Kings Island and Kings Dominion, to manage the property. Then in 1989, King's Entertainment outright purchased the park. In 1992, Paramount purchased King's Entertainment, leading to the California park being renamed Paramount's Great America. This led to popular IPs being added to the park like Top Gun and the Nickelodeon characters. In 2006, Cedar Fair purchased all of the Paramount parks. The California property went by Great America once again briefly, before the name was expanded to California's Great America. Cedar Fair began investing heavily in most of these properties, but they were a bit hesitant to invest in the Santa Clara location at first. Ever since the late 1990s, the San Francisco 49ers have been trying to build a new football stadium. Shortly after Cedar Fair purchased Great America, the 49ers set their sights on a stadium in Santa Clara right by their training facility, and this stadium would be plopped down in Great America's overflow lot. Cedar Fair was heavily opposed to the project and even filed a lawsuit in 2009, but the latter was dismissed by the court. As a result, Cedar Fair tried to sell the park to JMA Ventures for $70 million in late 2011. The sale fell through, this time. Cedar Fair then worked with the 49ers on a long-term parking and construction agreement. The biggest impact to the park was that it could not open on game days. With the park's prospects seemingly stable, Cedar Fair began investing in the property. The park had been developing a wood coaster for years, and it finally came to fruition with Gold Striker in 2013. Then a few years later, Great America unveiled a master plan that would forever change the park. Highlights of the plan included multiple roller coasters, including a hypercoaster and an intimate impulse coaster. There will also be an expanded water park featuring a water coaster, and a larger main entrance accompanied by an entertainment zone. The park's future seemed to be very bright. The park did get a new coaster in 2018 and an RMC Raptor named Railblazer, plus a water park expansion, but many of the other plans seemed to stall out. The park was heavily rumored to receive a Balzer and Mabillard hypercoaster named Megabyte, but due to cost issues, this ride was eventually shifted to Kings Island and transformed into Orion. This was the first sign something may have been wrong at Great America. 2020 was not a good year for many parks, especially Great America. Due to California's strict COVID restrictions, the park was kept closed for a full calendar year until May of 2021. 2021 was also the year that Cedar Fair quietly ceased operations of their other Northern California property in Gilroy Gardens. This was more of a family park, but it was another sign that Cedar Fair was not interested in the Northern California market, and it went relatively unnoticed at the time. Then Cedar Fair dropped a bombshell in 2022. They announced they sold the park's land to Prologis for $310 million to reduce their debt. Cedar Fair will continue to operate the park until its closure in 2033 at the absolute latest, but there are big concerns the park will either close earlier than that or become a shell of its former self. Many expect Cedar Fair to start removing rides and relocating them to their other properties. Why would Cedar Fair invest in a park they know will close? But to the park's credit, it still is clean, and the day-to-day operations feel similar to how they've been for the most part. And in 2023, they are heavily rumored to be receiving a new kiddie ride, which is more than anyone expected after the sale was announced. The town of Santa Clara found out about the sale with everyone else, and they hope to keep the property as an amusement park. Apparently, the land is only zoned for that purpose. I hope the park is ultimately saved, but I'm not holding my breath. Prologis will definitely want to develop the land as something else after paying such a hefty price. With all that history out of the way, let's talk about the park experience today. Santa Clara is roughly 45 minutes south of San Francisco and Oakland. If you're using amusement parks as your point of reference, the park is an hour south of Six Flags Discovery Kingdom and an hour north of Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. Most people access this park by car, but that's not my preferred method. The park is a big lot near the entrance, but there is a lot of traffic nearby. Most of my visits have taken place via public transit. During a summer internship, Great America was actually my home park, and I did not have a car that summer, so I often found myself taking the train to the park. The Amtrak train services the nearby cities, including San Francisco and Oakland, and the Great America station is roughly a 15-minute walk to the main entrance. Admission currently costs $70 at the gate, but you can get a $20 to $30 discount on the park's website in advance. I've only visited this park with a season pass though. This park offers ones good for just Great America for about $100, or you can purchase the Platinum Pass good for all Cedar Fair parks. The latter is pricey at $280, but it is worth it if you visit a few of their other parks in the same season. And all these season passes allow you to avoid the $30 parking fee if you have a car. Once inside, it is hard not to be impressed by this park's appearance. While the entrance building itself is pretty pedestrian, the reveal of the main midway is stunning. You look out towards a rare double-decker carousel, and immediately in front of you, there's a well-landscaped fountain with crystal clear water. And to top it all off, you have some additional kinetic energy from the nearby Star Tower and Gold Striker cycling. Through and through, Great America is an amusement park. There isn't much in terms of theming, but most of the park looks quite nice, so I can forgive that. It's clean, and rides look fresh. Most buildings look good and have a classical feel to them. The only section that feels a bit off to me is the midway back by Drop Tower and Grizzly. It feels a bit too open and lethargic compared to the rest of the park. The park is among the easiest to navigate. It forms one giant loop. There is a convenient Skyride to take you between the front and back half of the park, but that has been closed in my last few visits. Ride closures have been an issue at this park in recent years. Due to staffing issues, I've seen multiple rides closed each visit. That's part of the reason I deliberately tried to visit during Labor Day weekend last year. Yet, Grizzly and Demon were closed most of the time, as well as several prominent non-coasters. The other complication is that this is a year-round park, so rides can close for annual maintenance or repainting in the winter months. I completely understand this happening, but I wish the park would post their ride closures in advance for people planning trips. The park also does not have the best operations. Lines at this park can move at a snail's pace. It is a combination of low capacity and sluggish operations. This is one of those parks that allows you to store all your belongings on the load platform. This is great for your wallet, but it can slow the restraint checks on coasters. The employees are pretty friendly as a whole though. If you visit on days with crowds, do not be surprised if Railblazer and Gold Striker both have waits exceeding an hour. They are the park's two most popular rides. Then Grizzly, Rip Roaring Rapids, Psycho Mouse, Tiki Twirl, and Flight Deck can also build up sizable queues on busy days. So how should you tackle this park? Well, I recommend arriving before the official park opening time. This puts you in prime position for the rope drop. You want to be one of the first people in line for Gold Striker. Because of its location up front, many guests will go here first, and it stays pretty busy open to close. I would then head back to Railblazer. This will have the worst line midday, so now is your time to get your laps on it. Although, I have heard this coaster is a pseudo-single rider line. It is not marked, but I know people have had success going up the fast lane queue and notifying the operator they're a single rider. After this, I would then head back to Psycho Mouse. Hopefully this wild mouse does not have much of a wait, because it is one of the most inefficiently operated rides on the planet. This ride can double stacks with ease. If this ride already has a queue, I would honestly advise skipping it unless you really like this type of ride. Your next stop should be Grizzly. This ride does tend to open 1 to 2 hours after the front gate. It's a pretty lackluster ride, but it does have a custom layout. This is just another one that has really bad dispatches. This plan should allow you to knock out the park's 4 worst waits in the first 2 hours. If you want to maximize your time, the park does offer a fast lane skip the line pass. It is a pricey upcharge, but it gives you near immediate boarding on most rides. I would invest in this if you're coming from a distance and the park is busy. I think this is easily a full day park, and that is just looking at the amusement side. The park also has a decent sized attached water park in South Bay Shores. Now let's look at the ride offerings. Great America currently has 9 different roller coasters. Their lineup is quite balanced from a thrill perspective, but their steel coasters do tend to be on the shorter side. Just look at their best coaster. Railblazer was one of the original RMC Raptors. This rides less than 2,000 feet of track, but boy, does it use all that track well. You have one of the fastest paced layouts anywhere. The train cartoonishly whips through the layout, and the ride ragdolls your body. There are 4 hills with some vicious ejector airtime. Then you also have some nice laterals and hang time for variety. This coaster is over in a flash, but it's an absolute rush as I noted in my review. Flight Deck is one of the earliest Bolliger and Mabillard inverts. This is one of the shortest coasters the company has ever built, but I love what it has. There are 3 great inversions and 2 intense helixes. The one after the first loop has some crazy sustained Gs that always causes me to gray out. And the final one is so picturesque, taking place above the water. And even after 3 decades of operation, the ride is super smooth. See my review for more on this ride. Patriot is the park's other B&M looper. This ride started off as a stand-up coaster known as Vortex, but was converted into a floorless coaster a few years ago. And I think the experience has improved. It is much more tolerable. While the layout is on the weaker and shorter side, the 2 inversions are enjoyable. I particularly love that final corkscrew. If you're riding in the back, it somehow gives airtime as you're pulled through it. I also have a review for this coaster if you want to hear more. Demon is another sit-down looper. This is one of the weaker Arrow loopers though. The drop doesn't have the usual burst of airtime, and the ride is a bit jerky. However, I do enjoy the 4 inversions. The first 2 vertical loops have strong and sustained Gs. Then the final 2 corkscrews shoot through some rockwork. Psycho Mouse is a rare Arrow Wild mouse. While the one at Michigan's Adventure runs really fast, this one has quite a bit more braking to it. You'll still get some laterals in the first half and some okay pops of air in the second half. This ride is popular with families, but beware the line. I would not be surprised if it accommodated less than 200 riders per hour. That is pitiful for a park of this size. The park's wood coasters offer longer ride experiences. Gold Striker is a fantastic GCI woody. I think it's the most intense ride they've ever fabricated. This is a fast-paced twister with some forceful turns and valleys. Then the ride has plenty of airtime too. It's plentiful and decent in power, but I find the airtime more aggressive on a few other GCIs. That being said, the speed and strength make it a standout coaster as I stated in my review. The park's other wood coasters have a much more dubious reputation. Grizzly was a perennial contender for the worst coaster on the Mitch Hawker annual poll. However, I don't think that's fair to this coaster. Is it good? Heck no. The hills are super shallow and 100% forceless. But is it rough? Actually, no. My least favorite coasters try to beat me up. Grizzly just tries to put me to sleep. It's a ride filled with long drawn-out hills and turns. The final 2 coasters are meant for kids. Woodstock Express is the larger of the 2. This is a custom Intamin coaster tucked in the back corner of the park. It's easy to miss if you don't know it exists, and if you want the credit, adults can ride without a child. The same cannot be said about Lucy's Krabby Cabbies. All adults must be accompanied by a child. This is a great first coaster for younger guests, as this modular creation is a small oval with a series of little humps. On that note, Planet Snoopy is the park's sizable kids area. It is a colorful land with the famous Peanuts characters. Most importantly, I really like how this area includes a diverse mix of rides. Some are exclusively for kids, while others can comfortably accommodate adults too. And there are some rides you would not expect in a children's area like a Huss breakdance. Moving on to the adult flat rides, this is one of the park's biggest strengths. That is, even with the park removing some good ones in recent years like the Firefall Topspin and the HMB Endeavor Looping Starship. To start, this park has some really rare ones. I already mentioned that beautiful double-decker carousel in Carousel Columbia, but you also have a trio of old Schwarzkopfs. You have one of the last remaining Byron curves in Berserker. It's not as fast as the ones found in Pennsylvania, but it is a fun take on a Himalaya. You also have Centrifuge, which is a Calypso. Think of it as a faster scrambler type ride, so it's great for spinning ride fans. Then you have Orbit, which is your classic Enterprise. It is so weird to ride anything without lap bars nowadays, especially something that inverts. The park is the modern Thrillers 2. On the extreme end, you have Drop Tower. This is a 22-story tall freefall ride from Intamin. You get a great view of your surroundings and a punchy drop. I always leave my stomach at the top and float the whole way down. There's also a 15-story tall Sky Coaster and Extreme Skyflyer, offering even more exhilarating drop, but that ride is an upcharge. Delirium is a solid chance frisbee. It's not as extreme as some other models, but you'll still get several pops of airtime in the max swings. Tiki Twirl is a large Zamperla disco coaster. These are some of my favorite spinning rides out there because they offer a smidge of weightlessness on the spikes, plus all that spinning. Flying Eagles is another sneaky wild flat ride. This is a modern set of Larson flying scooters, but these ones are very snappable, and the employees did not seem to take issue with it. Another very underrated ride is Rue La Dodge. This is a set of solely bumper cars. What's odd about this one is that the cars have a major power discrepancy between them. Some have average speed and power, others are significantly faster, which gives them some really good hit power. I was able to dish out some major collisions from the Sheriff car. Lastly, do not miss the Star Tower Observation Tower if you're into photography. You get some wonderful views of Gold Striker, the entire park, and the surrounding area. For dark rides, your only option is Mass Effect New Earth, which is a 4D theater. This has been closed in my recent visits though, so I've never been able to try it. Unfortunately, this park does not have one of those Boo Blaster shooting dark rides you typically find at a Cedar Fair park. Moving on to the water rides, you have two notable ones. Rip Roaring Rapids is a long Intamin Rapids ride. There are plenty of rapids, some offer little splashes, while others can be soakers. Then you have Whitewater Falls. This is an Intamin Shoot the Chutes. You have a double down and no restraints, so you get some shocking standing airtime on that second hump. And unlike some models out there, this one doesn't completely drench you, at least if you're sitting in the back. Then the park is the South Bay Shores Water Park. I have not been to this water park since it was transformed from Boomerang Bay, but it looks to have a balanced lineup now. Pacific Surge is a big slide tower with intense trapdoor slides and some sizable tube slides. Similar towers can be found at other Cedar Fair parks too. Then you have some other nice looking slides like Reef Racer, which is a super steep body slide, and Mission Falls, which is a half pipe slide. I do look at the water park with some disdain though. In order to expand it, the park lost some notable rides on the dry side. The most notable casualty was Stealth. This was the first large-scale flying coaster. Thankfully, this Vekoma Flying Dutchman lives on at Carowinds' Nighthawk. The other ride that was removed in recent years was Logger's Run. This was a really fun log flume with a giant double down at the end. Moving on to live entertainment, I have not seen any shows during the main season. I'm more of a ride person. However, I have seen several of their shows during Winterfest. They have some nice musical shows and Snoopy on Ice. The latter was particularly fun. On that note, I highly recommend visiting during Winterfest. All of the lights look fantastic, and you can avoid the sweltering heat during the summer months. The one con is that a few supporting coasters like Grizzly and Demon may be closed. The park also used to have a popular Halloween haunt event, but it was scrapped in 2022. This was originally viewed as another stab wound for the dying park, but this was a deliberate financial decision we've seen come to other Cedar Fair parks. This would save the park on staffing, as the park would have shorter hours and they could make events targeted more towards families who spend more than the rowdy teens that haunt events attract. Last but not least, let's talk about the food. Maggie Brown's Fried Chicken was my go-to restaurant when I frequented the park in 2014. I remember it being good, but I have not had it since. I've eaten before entering the park in recent years. The food you'll find at California's Great America is your usual fare to other Cedar Fair parks: burgers, chicken tenders, pizza, ice cream, and some chains like Auntie Anne's. So do I recommend visiting California's Great America? Absolutely, and make sure to do it soon. It would be an utter shame if you could not experience this nice park in its glory days. The park has a nice atmosphere and a deep ride lineup. You have a trio of great coasters, plus enough supporting coasters, flat rides, and water rides to fill an entire day. There are better parks in the Cedar Fair chain, but this has a strong case as the best park in Northern California. I really hope this park is saved, but I think it may only have a few years left in light of the sale. Get here before it's too late. So those are my thoughts on California's Great America. What are your thoughts about this park? Whether it be the park itself, the rides, or its sale? How much longer do you think this park will last? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.